So we're looking at some of the system setup now for numbering, the other options that you've got, your VAT and email details and things. This is under the setup menu, system setup, and the options in here, the first one is the numbering options that you have. So you need to consider if you've been using a pre-printed quote pad and that's already pre-numbered up, or you've got an existing system that's been numbering your quotations, then you can put the last quote number in here and the system will go from there going forward, so you've got complete continuity. Similarly with the invoice number, if you've had paper invoice pads that you've been writing that are pre-printed with numbers on, you can put your last one in here and it'll go from there. The other one to consider again is just the last job numbers. And also, are you going to automatically increase the quote number? So if you're using a manual pad system and then entering this onto the system here, you perhaps wouldn't want to use the automatic quoting because you want to put the quote number on from the pad. So you would untick that box. But if you're printing all the quotes from the system here, you would leave that box ticked so that it automatically increases those numbers for you. And similarly with the invoices, we recommend that you use this for all your invoicing. So if you're writing a manual invoice out that you're leaving with the clients and you just want to update that on the system here for the statistics and your reporting for your accountant, then you can untick this box and put those in manually. But if you're using the system in full and creating the invoices on here, then we recommend you leave that ticked as auto invoice number. So let's now look at the other domestic options. The one at the top there is allow amend last job date detail. When you do your import, if you've not got a last job date in a separate field that can be imported directly, it is possible, if we leave this box ticked, to actually amend that directly in the client's record. So in the key information at the top of the client's record, there's a last job date, and you can click that and manually amend that if you leave a tick in this box here. Obviously, once you've updated all the system, we recommend you come into here and untick this box so that it can't accidentally change the last job date detail from the client record. The next one on there is the manual pricing. You can put a tick in there if you want that the system to default to manual pricing. Obviously, if you leave that unticked, the system's going to work automatic pricing out, and you're going to put your dimensions in and it'll work the pricing out from the pricing tables that you enter. So perhaps another reason for ticking the manual pricing would be if you're going out doing quotes and you're leaving the quotes on paper rather than generating them on the system because you're not taking a laptop into the house. If you're then entering those quotes onto the system, you wouldn't want it to be automatically calculating the prices. You'd want to be manually putting in the prices that you've calculated. So you'll put a tick in the box here, and as you add items on, it will be expecting you to put a price in and prompting you for those. And then the next one that's in the Professional Plus edition is require family name. So it's important that you've got a family name on a record, but it is easy to be a little distracted when you're entering details and quotations and things and forget to put the family name in. So by leaving a tick in this box, if you try and move out of the record, it will prompt you that you need to pop a family name in there as well. When you first do your setup, there's a facility here for the system start date. So if you want to get all your data in, and it takes you perhaps, I don't know, a couple of weeks or a couple of days, and you don't want to actually start the system automatic marketing and tracking and things, the system start date here can be set. So once you're ready to go properly live, you can change the system start date here to today's date, and away you go and it'll work. And that's for things like the job reminder and things like that. So as you're doing the initial setup, there's going to be some things that are going to affect the statistics. So we recommend you get everything set up, and then once you're ready to go, come in here and change that system start date to today's date. The next thing on there is the unit of length. You can choose what you're defaulting to, so you've got meters, yards and feet, and that's how you're setting up your pricing tables. Don't worry though, because when you're entering the dimensions into the system, you do get the option of telling it what units you're using, and it will do the automatic conversion. So as it's set up meters now, if a client calls and gives you the dimensions in feet, you just tell the system that the dimensions are in feet, and it will do the calculation automatically back to meters for you. So the next one in the Professional Plus edition is number of extras. We allow you to display up to 2 sets of columns for extras in the pricing grid, so for the quotations and the jobs. So that's the anti-allergen treatments, that's the extra services that you provide on top of the core services that you're providing for the item. So you might have anti-allergen, fire retardant and things like that. As I said, we allow you to set 2, but that usually most people would just have 1 column for extras to help save screen space as well. And it's unusual if you would quote for 2 extra items on an item. The VAT is the next one, and you need to come in here and make sure that this is set correctly. If you're not VAT registered, obviously change the VAT rate to 0, and then the system will calculate all the prices and the VAT will not be calculated on anything. If you are VAT registered, make sure this is set to the current VAT rate. The current VAT rate is 20%, so I don't need to change that, but you just need to make sure that this is changed to whatever the current VAT rate is. One of the things for future reference is if the VAT rate is changing and it's likely to go up rather than down, so if it was going up to say 22.5%, you will put the next VAT rate percentage in this box here and then the date that that's actually going to go up. And then the system will automatically recalculate the VAT element of the existing prices within the system. So if the VAT rate's going up, it's not going to alter the existing prices, but it's going to adjust the VAT within the price that you've charged to make sure that you're accounting for it correctly. The next one along in here is the email. You need to come into this section if you're going to be emailing from the client's record, and you need to enter all this information that's entered here. Now this is provided by your internet service provider. This isn't something that we have access to, and this is provided by your internet service provider. You should be able to contact them and tell them that you're trying to set up a third-party piece of software that sends email and you need this information, and they should be able to give you that information there as well. We've also added the option to send a test email to make sure that this is working. Now I do need to warn you that this isn't going to work with Gmail, so Google Mail, and it's probably not going to work with Hotmail and Yahoo, so that basically the free online email providers this system isn't going to work with, and neither do most software systems. Below this test button as well, we've got the settings for the automatic emails that the system generates using the easy emailing system, and we recommend you leave this as it's set, and the reason is when the system is sending emails out, we're trying to avoid being blocked by your service provider, and we can't promise that you won't be blocked, but by using these settings, this generally we've not had any problems at all with this. So what this is saying here is that it will send 25 emails out 1 second apart, wait 10 seconds, and then send 25 emails out 1 second apart. And that's pretty standard within this sort of software that's generating emails internally and then emailing those out. If you try and send 200 out at once in one batch, you will almost certainly be blocked by your service provider and maybe blacklisted and blocked for sending spam. Doing this should get you around those rules, but again, there's no promises. Of course, what this also means is that the emailing sometimes takes a little while, and that's why the email progress button's there. And if you're going to be doing the email marketing and things, we recommend that you probably do it in an evening when you're less likely to want to get onto the system, or first thing before you leave the office if you're not going to be using the system during the day. Set the emailing off and let it do it while you're out, because at 25 seconds and then a 10-second break, it can sometimes take 5, 10, perhaps 15 minutes to send out a good batch of emails, and during that time the system's going to be a little bit slow while it's just doing that in the background. The only other things you need to consider in this section here are the map web address. We default to use Google Maps. There's one automatically on here to use Street Maps as an option instead. As I say, we default to Google Maps. You can click test and that'll take you to a test postcode on there. And also many other services like Bing provide you with an address that you can actually just pop into this section. So that's basically everything within the system setup regarding numbering and other details.